Is that correct?
Correct. And this item was the review of the procedures for commissions and committees and boards.
Yes, this was Mayor Pro Tem Elliott that wanted to pull.
Okay, well, I wanted to pull this item for a couple of reasons. This, first of all, was to change some of our committees and to clean up some of the language. And since we had this item on our agenda, I wanted to take this opportunity to interject some changes to the commission appointment process and for us to consider. And I understand that on one of these we may need to go through changing the ordinance as well that pertains to the Planning Commission. So I'm going to start.
If you can, on who actually has the appointment power. We have to deal with a section of state law and an ordinance that are in effect that give the mayor that power. So I'm looking at your notes. I realize that may come into play.
Right.
And I'm not quite certain about people having to come from certain districts either. So what we want to do is drill down into that after this discussion. Mm-hmm. And if we're going to go in that direction, we want to make sure that it's going to end up being valid. Because
right.
I didn't see this till tonight. So
right, and this was something that I worked on starting today after listening to a lot of residents' concerns and then getting information about other cities, how they do this once they break into districts. And a lot of cities actually make the changes to the Planning Commission appointment when they make the decision to go to district electoral voting. I first want to highlight the change of the investment committee to the finance committee, and I think that this is going to provide us with some extraordinary amount of transparency that we will be able to then, instead of just making decisions on investments, we will be reviewing warrants, registers, financial statements, investment reports, the annual independent audit, city fees and service charges, and operating budgets. And what I'm going to propose tonight is to, under the membership category, under the memberships section on page 19 of 20, in this, after the resolution, we had the guidance section, and I've given you all a copy of this here on the dais and also to the city clerk, that we're going to add another level of memberships to consider, and that is a non-voting resident from each district should be appointed by each city council member, and a non-voting resident appointed by the mayor at large to review and advise the city on budget and fiscal matters. And what that does is that will tap into the financial expertise that is out in the community. And when we'd make this appointment, we'd have the same process where people could apply. They'd have to show what district they're in, and then when we make the appointment, we could choose somebody. So that way, we have many eyes looking at these financial matters, and even though they wouldn't be voting on them, they would be free to add input to our meetings. So that was one thing I was going to add. But the reason I pulled this is our city no longer follows the at-large system of government. Currently, the city uses the district-based form of legislative government, and appointments are made to all city commissions and boards that require citizen participation are currently unbalanced. For example, the Planning Commission has about 5 members living in District 2, and 2 of the applicants on today's agenda that were nominated, at least one of them belonged in District 2. So that gives a clear advantage and increases the possible influence from District 2. People know that where you live, if there are major changes to the land use in your district, you are going to be much more concerned than if something is happening on the other side of the city that doesn't affect you day to day. So that's why I believe very strongly that we should have one planning commissioner from each district appointed.
I'm missing here a cheat sheet.
Item 5 in the resolution that we are considering today states, quote, "The city desires to provide a fair and equitable manner by which citizens are appointed to city commissions, committees, boards, and authorities, which is free from undue influence, but which advances the authority provided by Government Code Section 4605. By simply adding a residency requirement that would resolve this issue and prevent the accidental stacking of undue influence from any one council district. My proposal for the Planning Commission is that the commission stays with 7 members, and 4 members of the Planning Commission would represent each district selected by that district's council member. The remaining 3 members would be appointed by the mayor, and they would serve at large. Those 3 members appointed by the mayor can reside in any district. The appointments made to the Planning Commission should follow 2 processes. First, the appointment made by the council member, which should require the applicant reside in the district where the council member represents. And I think this, and I've also made changes on our guidance that this would also be true for committees as well, our city council advisory committee, our street tree committee, advisory committee, and the other council committees, so that we would have residents appointed from all the districts there. This applicant would serve at the will of the council member who nominated them. How the council member makes their selection is up to them, but it would still have to go through the same process that we currently utilize, where each vacancy is advertised, and that same process, which I believe is in our ordinance, that same process would still be utilized. But it would just be the council member that would select from the applicants from that district, instead of having a committee deciding on that particular that appointment. The final approval requires the majority vote of the council. The terms of office, although it's greatly appreciated that residents have the dedication to volunteer and serve the community by serving on all of our boards and commissions, the cycling in and out of committee members is vital for the integrity of our commissions and our committees. By enacting a term limit and then allowing for that limit to be extended by a 4/5 vote of the City Council is bad public policy. Those who serve longer than the 8-year term maximum, although they are very knowledgeable and experienced, prevent other volunteers from getting the opportunity to be allowed to showcase their talents and participate in city civic engagement. So I'm proposing that we get rid of the 4/5 rule and replace it with an 8-4-8 non-consecutive rule, meaning that a member may serve up to 8 years, 2 terms, and then take a full term, 4 years off the commission before being able to be reappointed.
Now, what if they're appointed mid-term? Like when Bill was appointed to the council, obviously that was a portion of a term.
Okay, so that's why I said up to 8 years. So if let's say you've got 2 years and then 4 years, an additional 4 years would make that 10 years. Yeah. So that wouldn't work for the second one. That would be something that someone would have to take into consideration. This would allow for new applicants the opportunity to serve and prevents any hoarding of an appointment seat on any commission. The process would also extend to the chair of each commission or committee, and we would amend the rule to allow for 2 two-year services as the chair, equaling to a total of 4 years, followed by 1 full 2-year chair term off before being eligible to serve as that chair again. So again, that would allow for new people to have the opportunity to serve in leadership positions. Now, what I gave to each council member, to our attorney, and to our city clerk is a page-by-page summary of the changes to the resolution. The resolution incorporates the guidance. It's called the the guidelines for authorities, boards, committees, and commissions. So the resolution itself does not make a change on this, but it refers to these guidelines, and I have got a page-by-page summary of each guideline. And at this point, do you want me, the concept is to provide for term limits and to provide for district selections by council members. There will be kind of an awkward period until this would, I think this should start after the 2020 election. And there's going to be kind of an awkward period until we transition to the point where a council member from a district is elected, and then at that point they appoint somebody. There's going to be a transition period where we need to figure out how that person is appointed, that vacancy in the planning commission is appointed. But it seems to me that, like, starting with this one, if we appoint somebody from District 3 and somebody from District 4, for example, then the next time we have a vacancy, we could appoint someone to District 1 and to District 2. So we can sort that out in a fair way. So I think at this point, my motion is to
Would you like to table this until we can work
Yeah,
that
because
out?
I didn't get to read
Lot of
this,
stuff
and I
and-
don't think
Right,
it's
right,
fair
right.
to
Okay,
make
so I
that
move-
decision.
I move that we put this on the agenda at the next meeting.
Just a moment. Yes, Carrie?
If I can make a suggestion.
Sure.
The intent at this time of the resolution was to clean up some language.
Uh-huh.
And also to change the schedule to a quarterly schedule.
Uh-huh.
Because of all the cancellations and members of the committees holding time on their calendar that wasn't necessary.
Uh-huh.
So if you could make those approvals tonight and update the resolution. And before any more appointments come in June, when the next expirations come, we could address the districting and the changes to the ordinance and bring that back at a later date.
Right, so,
And in addition, of course, we've got the appointment power is governed by state law and ordinances, so you're changing that. It may be you get a nomination from the districts and then the mayor appoints on that basis. In other words, if you want to change the criteria but right now we have a state law provision that gives the mayor the appointment power and a statute in your code. So we'll come back with it and try to see what can be done which couldn't be done tonight.
okay, so do I need, what I'd like to do is make a motion that we put this on the agenda at an upcoming meeting.
Okay.
So,
You know, Mayor Pro Tem Elliott, this is going to take a little bit of time to
Right.
get through it. So
Right.
it's not going to happen anytime soon. And it sounds to me like, well, I don't say anytime soon, but not right away back to the council for review. But as Carrie indicated, the appointments, in June is when?
June is the next round of expiring terms, yes.
Right. So we have a little bit of time to work on this and bring it back to you. But what we've asked you to do tonight is approve this so that we can allow people that are on these committees right now to know that we're going to a quarterly basis. If we need to do a special meeting in between the regularly scheduled meeting, then we'll reach out to them to get that on their agenda. But it would be helpful for those committee members, that's what I heard, to know that this is a more realistic schedule of meetings than we presently have.
I definitely will make that motion, and I'm supportive of it. I will vote yes on that. So I just wanted to, since this was on here, to make sure that we can come back to that. And we never know when a vacancy is going to come up.
Right.
So as long as we don't know when a vacancy is going to come up, I'm not in a hurry on this, but I'd like it at the next reasonable date to
Right,
bring
and-
this up and put it on the agenda.
And we have to kind of think about it a little bit. I mean, there
Right.
there might need to be flexibility put in the recommendations to allow the council member to appoint somebody that maybe not in their district, but maybe they're not getting people to volunteer for that position. So you want to be able to have that flexibility. It's still an appointment by that council member for his or her district, but maybe that person, maybe there's nobody in the district that has the time to provide to that type of a commitment. Or there may be other things that we might want to consider. The transition schedule, if we were going to go that way, how would we implement a transition schedule? So there's quite a bit of
there's a lot to it.
items
I
that
definitely
we need to
agree.
really drill into and work with the attorney's office to make sure that they're done appropriately.
Absolutely. I just want to make sure I'm on the record for a request to put this on an agenda at our next reasonable, and if it takes 2 months, 3 months, I'm good with that. I just want this to be on an agenda in a future meeting.
All right, so we have a motion to approve item J. Do I have a second?
I'll second
Oh,
that.
wait, didn't I just make a motion to put this on a future agenda and
Yes.
But
nobody
we're
seconded?
going-
You provided me with direction to do that.
Oh, okay, I got it. Say, I did make a motion, so I'll withdraw the motion. I'll just give you direction for that. Thank you. I'm
So
fine
we
with
All
do
right,
that.
so do I have a motion to approve item J?
I'll move.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right, let's vote. Okay.